Camera Raw. I had you guys set your cameras to the RAW file format when we were doing the menu setup video. And I want to sort of talk about this a little bit because, you may just be really into professional wrestling and you're like, yes, I want to set the RAW, whatever is that Diamond Dallas Page? I don't even know. Like, can you smell what The Rock is? So what I want to sort of do is I want to sort of talk a little bit about why you would maybe sort of use the RAW file format. And there are some advantages, but there are also some disadvantages, but you're going to find out that I think the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages. So disadvantages. Number one, the file's bigger. But in 2020, 2021, whatever year this is that you're watching this, it's not that much bigger. And also the price of storage has become so low. You can get terabyte SD cards, I don't even know. So just don't even worry about the storage. Just don't even worry about the storage. You're also, and this is the biggest one, is that your computer isn't natively going to be able to open the file. So you're going to need some sort of special software. And usually all of the camera manufacturers have their own special software that comes for free with the camera. It's usually not that great unless you're using the free version of the Sony Capture One, but it's usually not great. I'm looking at you, Canon. But you need some sort of software because that RAW file format isn't going to be able to be open. And so the big sort of piece of software that everybody uses is Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Lightroom, and then the sort of bridge application, Adobe Camera Raw, which is really the engine for Adobe's processing of RAW images. You got to maintain the support for the raw image unless you use the Adobe Digital Negative, but we won't get into those weeds right now. But that's really it for the cons. A little more storage is going to be needed, not a big deal, and you're going to need a piece of software, which you're going to be using Photoshop and Lightroom anyway. Here's the advantages. So you're going to get the full range of all of the information that the camera sensor recorded. So you're going to get all the highlight detail, all the shadow detail, all the color. It's going to be uncompressed. So you're going to get the most data possible. Why that's a great thing is because it's very malleable, right? You can be off on your exposure a little bit and you can sort of recover that. You can even have your white balance set incorrectly and you can sort of just change it after the fact, and that is huge. Hello dog, how are you? And so you can do a lot of things without sort of destructively and negatively affecting your image. So I think as you're gonna find, it's gonna be way more advantageous. And then the biggest thing for me anyway is it looks better. You have the image just looks better. Don't believe me? Let's go to the computer and check out what some of those files look like. Hey dog, come here. We're gonna go to the computer, but first we're gonna try and get the dog to come here. Whatever, she hates me.
I just want to show you, I have made a couple RAW plus JPEGs just for this demo so that I can show you that if I am here and I go to here, this is my JPEG image, and you're going to see that it's a compressed file. You can see it over here, .jpg. You'll also see this is my RAW file. This gives me a little bit more tooth, and also it gives me a lot more options to sort of select an initial white balance. So if I come into here, I have all these options for as shot versus just auto or custom. I also don't like this because I only have the color or monochrome options in the profile, where the RAW file gives me much more options when it comes to the profile. I also can sort of do things with the file that are a little more, advantageous. So if I come to this image, you can clearly see this is the JPEG. This is the raw file. So JPEG, raw file. And you'll see that when I made this picture, I was maybe in the shadow, and I can bring this down a little bit. I can sort of adjust this more. The more I do with the JPEG, do you see how much crunchier that gets? I mean, do you see that there's a larger range of color versus a dull, flat JPEG? Another great advantage is if I'm in a JPEG here and a raw file here, right? So this is my raw file, this is my JPEG. I clearly had my color balance set to tungsten, so it's super blue. All I got to do is switch that to daylight because I know I'm in daylight, and look at that. If I go into my auto setting to try and get it here, do you just see that this image has a lot more warmth? It has a lot more shadow and highlight detail. This one just sort of looks flat, and if I sort of try and warm that up a little bit, I really start to lose image detail. In the highlights, it just goes away. And so I just really do not like photographing in JPEG at all. It just feels like a waste of time to me, especially with something like Lightroom. Again, I can come into a raw file, switch it to even an auto exposure, and I'm going to get a much better color rendition than I am going to get on the JPEG. I mean, look at how, to get that highlight detail, I'm just going to have to, it's just not great. I'm sort of quickly going through this. The other thing that I love about photographing in RAW versus a JPEG, right? So I'm at a JPEG here, I'm at a RAW file here. I'm wildly, maybe not wildly, but I feel like I'm a little overexposed. Look what happens when I bring that exposure down. I have a lot more information as opposed to bringing this file down. Do you just see how I have to bring the contrast up? So look what happens when I overexpose a JPEG, and let's do the Y versus Y. So that's where it was. And this is how I did it in a raw file. And then this is the same rendition in a JPEG, just flat, lifeless, dull. I hate it. I'm going to go to auto on that. I'm going to go to auto on that. I mean, again, you're going to, I don't just do things because it's the way to do them. I really do believe that you have to sort of treat your images the best that they can be treated. And I think starting out in a raw file is going to sort of do that for you.